Bill that would end the government shutdown if it comes.
Lawmakers are working overtime trying to hammer out a deal that would reboot government operations.
One day into a government shutdown that Senate Democrats have forced on our country.
Negotiating with this White House is like negotiating with Jell-O.
Happy anniversary, Mr. President. Your wish came true. You wanted a shutdown.
Senate Democrats shut down the government over a bill that they have no issues with. This is utter madness.
Women's marches taking place all across the country. They are happening on the one-year anniversary of President Trump's inauguration.
Our country is so much bigger and kinder than one man that is in the White House.
Since this president took office, 863,000 new jobs were filled by women. What exactly are you resisting?
As far as the music department, it's opposite day.
Yeah, it's no working. Shutdown day 2.
They're negotiating.
Is that what they call it? Is that what they call speeches when they talk past each other on the Senate floor, on the House floor? Some interesting stuff. Dean Cain, welcome again today.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Why aren't you going at the speed of sound to D.C. to solve this problem, Superman?
I wish I could do that because I would.
You would if you could.
Of course I would, but that's just a character I played on TV. I didn't want to explain that, but yes. Let's also mention you're wearing your Vikings tie.
Well, of course.
And I'm wearing purple in honor of the Vikings.
Isn't a Wisconsin woman. She's a Green Bay fan. She said that. You made that clear.
I made that clear.
You're standing with the Midwest today.
I'm standing because they didn't kneel during.
No kneelers on the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to try not to be insufferable today, but my head, and I may not bring my A game. It may only be my B game today because my mind is a little distracted on Case Keenum and Stephon.
Big game today.
But we're glad that you're here.
But your mind's got to be on this shutdown.
The Schumer shutdown?
The Schumer shutdown.
It does have a ring to it.
It works. And the Republican Party, I mean, on both, especially on the Republican Party, they're trying to make the case that this shutdown can end. Because I think the point that's been so powerfully made time and time again is there's nothing in the Senate bill that Democrats oppose. At all.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. Everything they want is in there, but what is not in there is a deal on DACA, which everyone has said can be done separately, and we're going to bring you some sound eventually about ways that that could happen. But here's a little bit of a montage of if you were doing, probably not yard work, you may be shoveling, whatever you were doing yesterday that wasn't
taking care
yelling at each other on the Senate floor. Here's what the politicians were saying yesterday on Capitol Hill.
None of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle can point to a single thing in the bill that they oppose. Not one thing.
America and the world are calling this shutdown the Trump shutdown. Negotiating with this White House is like negotiating with Jell-O. It's next to impossible. As soon as you take one step forward, the hard right forces the president 3 steps back.
Senate Democrats shut down the government over a bill that they have no issues with. They opposed a bill they don't even oppose. We do some crazy things in Washington, but this is utter madness.
The Republicans were so incompetent, so negligent that they couldn't get it together to keep government open.
There is nothing in this bill Democrats say they object to. Yet it's like a 2-year-old temper tantrum to say, I'm going to take my toys and go home because I'm upset about something else.
So, Rachel, I got to, you as someone who is involved in Capitol Hill, what's happening behind closed doors, and are Democrats getting a little worried here?
I think they are. Look, this is Chuck Schumer's first big test as the leader of the Democrat Party, and I think he's walked his troops into a corner, and I think they're getting antsy, is what I can tell from what's happening and from what I've heard. Those sound bites are great. I mean, Paul Ryan has it right on. And first of all, give Paul Ryan credit. It's not easy to herd all these Republican cats together, and he did. They're all behind him. They've all put aside all their own issues, because believe me, every Republican had problems with what was in that bill. But he put together a funding bill, a continuation resolution bill that really the Democrats couldn't say no to.
Sure.
And somehow they found a way to say no.
Who's digging in their heels the most? Are the Democrats digging in their heels the most, or the Republicans? Because there's a lot of heel digging going on.
There's a lot of heel digging. Great point. You know who it is? It's Senate Democrats, and it's a particular group of Senate Democrats. We're going to have Scott Rasmussen on here after this segment. He's going to talk about those folks that might be running for president in 2020 in the U.S. Senate. They're trying to ingratiate themselves to the hard left, whereas you see the 5 Democrats, Senate Democrats that voted for the bill, they're all up for re-election in 2018. So don't disabuse yourself of the notion that this is not about politics. This is all about politics for Democrats. But, you know, the Democrats' lapdogs in the media, they don't know how to spin this. If you look at the headlines this morning, they're still very ambiguous. Normally, they're happy to blast the Republicans, but they know the facts are so clear that this is a Schumer shutdown. They have to be like, well, one headline from Politico, media outlets struggle to assign blame for shutdown. Because they want to blame the Republicans, but they can't.
Really do.
Well, there are some Democrats that are showing signs that they're willing to work with the president. No surprise, it's a Democrat who's in the House, Luis Gutierrez.
Who's not running for re-election.
He's not. Maybe that's why.
Just saying.
Let's just see what Luis has to say here.
If that's what it's going to take 800,000 young men and women and give them a chance to live freely and openly in America, then I'll roll up my sleeves. I'll go down there with bricks and mortar and begin to walk. Because, you know, a brick for lives? Okay, let's do it. And let me just say, that wall is offensive to me. It's insulting to me and people like me that have come to this country.
But you got to give him credit.
I give him so much credit, and I want to say this really quick. I don't agree with Luis Gutierrez on just about anything, but I've never ever questioned his sincerity when it came to the DACA recipients and to the Dreamers. I think he, honest to God, wants to make a deal. Frankly, I think the president should invite him to the White House. He seems like a far better, fairer broker, an arbiter than Dick Durbin, who I think really just wanted to blow up the deal and wanted to embarrass the president, wanted to be part of the resistance.
Go ahead, Dean.
Well, so why is the wall so offensive? It's a border. Why is that so offensive? Anywhere you go, any country that exists has borders. And why is a wall offensive? I don't understand that at all. I'm all for immigration, but do it legally. It's just not that hard.
That's just absolute common sense. You're right. But we live in a world where the left sees a borderless world. Hillary Clinton said that. They don't want these borders. They treat it very differently. I love when Chuck Schumer talks about Jell-O. Other people read that as unpredictability, which if you're a negotiator is a very, very effective tactic. And so far it's worked for this president.
We've always known that the solution for DACA and the eventual solution for immigration reform has always been border security. If you are serious about helping the DACA recipients, you gotta include border security.
So the recipe is very simple. Pass a budget bill, because it's the Schumer shutdown. Then you get to the deal, and if you have fair arbiters, it might actually happen.
It might.
And if you're a viewer out there, that kind of makes sense to you.
Hey.
Well, another nugget that caught our eye last night was Nancy Crumbs Pelosi took their House Democrat friends to a dinner at a fancy restaurant in Washington amid the shutdown. So you've got the House Democrats who have, they passed it out of the House, and they're like, hey, let's go out to a nice fancy deal.
While the military's not getting paid,
right?
And all of that's going on, but she's taking them out to a nice celebratory dinner, if you will.
It could be celebratory, but maybe they're trying to appease or calm down the troops who might be mad that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have put them in this terrible position.
About it, yeah.
Yeah, because look, this is a party that's saying there's a blue wave coming. We want to take over. We want to start leading the House. And when you show that you're out of touch like this, you're shutting down the government. You're not funding, as you say, Dean, the military. You say that bonuses to working class Americans for $1,000 is crumbs, and you go out to a fancy restaurant. That shows you're out of touch. That's how you lose races.
Is she Crumbs Pelosi or Fancy Nancy?
I
don't know.
Love Fancy
Let us know. Friends at FoxNews.com. Is it Fancy Nancy or Crumbs Pelosi? Because the average dinner there was about $35, which is a lot of money for most Americans. There was one tweet that caught our eye. A military mom, I don't know if we have it, we could put it on screen, talking about her daughter, who's in the military. Look at this. Hi, Nancy Pelosi. Can my U.S. Army daughter go? to the dinner? For some reason, she's not getting a paycheck. And illegals get more support from Dems than she does. Personally, I think it's idiotic to hold up military paychecks. The play with high explosives. But the point is well made.
It is well made. Well, Nancy was also at.
She was busy yesterday.
She was busy.
She had a busy day.
So were you.
Yeah, I was busy too. So Nancy went to the Women's March. So did I. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on.
I'm really interested to hear how you were received at the Women's March.
You didn't march. You were covering it.
I was covering it.
Yes.
I was covering it. Let's see. There were a lot of people there. They were celebrating women's rights. Here's what some of them had to say, some of the celebrities that attended the march.
We have a racist in the White House. We have a sexist in the White House. We have a pathological liar in the White House. And he is tearing away at the fabric of our democracy.
Voting is how we prove that our country is so much bigger and kinder than one man that is in the White House. We've got a whole lot more love and hope on our side than they have.
Our democracy's survival and the Earth's survival depends on our ability to get people the facts, help them understand who is really on their side.
Thanks, Hanoi Jane. So instead of going to church on Sunday, they preach at us from podiums on Saturday. You loved her outfit.
I did. I have
Such
to
a great comment. But the President Trump, as he often does, was able to sum it all up nicely over Twitter as he talked about the Women's March. He tweeted this yesterday. He said, "Beautiful weather all over our great country. A perfect day for all women to march. Get out there now to celebrate the historic milestones and unprecedented economic success and wealth creation that has taken place over the last 12 months. Lowest female unemployment in 18 years."
Yeah, they on Twitter they said troll level Jedi.
Yes, totally.
That's a very funny tweet. There's a good sense of humor.
But there's a lot of, the reason it's funny, Dean, is because there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, women, part of empowerment of women is economic empowerment, is financial independence. And that's what I think the Trump economy is offering women.
So you asked questions of some of the marchers. We're going to bring that to you later on the program.
That's going to be interesting
as well. Stick with us. It's going to be a fun morning. All right, well, we're moving on. Are some Democrats using the shutdown to make a play for 2020? As we mentioned, Scott Rasmussen has the key names we should be watching up next.
And you know how some people have a tough time acting like adults? Well, turns out it really is hard to grow up, and we've got the proof.
Can we turn our beds into bunk beds? And here's the thing, it'll give us so much extra space in our room to do activities. Please say yes.
You don't need permission from us to build bunk beds. You're adults.
Ken. All right, welcome back. We're entering day 2 of the government shutdown. But now it looks like some Democrats may be blocking a deal to fund the government. Not just some, but many. Just to make a play for 2020, that pesky election that's going to happen then. So who's using the shutdown as a push for their own White House run? Here to break it down, editor-at-large for Ballotpedia, Scott Rasmussen. Scott, thanks for being here this morning.
Great to be here.
So we look at a shutdown and we think, okay, they're voting for it based on the merits. But what you're saying, politics is heavy in this, and we got to look at individual players.
Of course. And by the way, most Americans think that everybody in the Senate looks at everything with politics. And when you're talking about the Senate, you're thinking about a lot of those people think they should be in the White House. For the Democratic Party, that means two things. They're playing to the hard left of the party's base because they want to win there. And the big fact this year, California has moved their primary up to early in the process. So effectively, if you are running for the Democratic presidential nomination, you are running to win in the state of California.
So many delegates in California that moves the primary to the left even further.
Exactly.
Interesting. So there were 5 Democrats that voted for the bill, but they're up for re-election in 2018.
Yeah,
these
we'll
are
get
the
to
folks
them at the end.
concerned about 2020.
And I think these are some of the key players for 2020. These are the people that want to move their party left and to take the leadership. They're all taking slightly different strategies to get there.
Got it.
You know, Cory Booker is talking about the emotions involved. He made the tears of rage comment after the
the mansplaining thing.
Yeah. He's talking about the dreamers as heroes. But when he talks about the shutdown, he puts it in broader terms. You know, we want to, everybody agrees. Republicans and Democrats alike agree this is no way to run a government. He recognizes that most people like the dreamers, but they don't think it's a reason to shut down
He's
the
also
government.
got a record as mayor that he'll have to defend.
Yes.
He plays a bipartisan, but man, does he do partisanship too.
Next up, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. She's already engaged in a Twitter war with the president. Sure. Talk about cred with the Democratic base. I mean, that's a big winner. She seems to be trying to outdeal the president. You know, the bill that's going through right now includes 6 years of CHIP funding for the Children's Health Program. Yeah. She wants 10 years. She wants protection of the Dreamers plus 10 years, and maybe a player to be named later. I'm not quite sure what. But she has the advantage that New York, I mean, if California is going to be like anywhere else in the nation, it's going to be like New York. So politically, she's on the right page.
So she understands the water she's swimming in for the primary. Right. Absolutely.
Then, of course, Senator Harris. Now, she has the home field advantage. She's playing it very well. She is talking about her role as representing 220,000 Dreamers. She's making it personal. She's connecting with the people. I think she's very likely to come out of California as one of the finalists.
I know her name is atop a lot of people's lists.
Exactly. Now we get to Elizabeth Warren. You know, obviously a big name in the progressive circles.
Big name for the president, too. Certain nickname for her.
That's right. That's right. And this isn't her strong issue. She wants to talk about financial inequality. She wants to talk about those big bad banks and everything else going on in the economic world. She's trying to show solidarity here. And she's really hoping that when we get to 2020 or 2019, actually, that the big topic is going to be inequality.
Has her stock fallen then because the economic picture has changed?
I think it's fallen a little bit, and I think it's difficult because Democrats want to talk about inequality, but if people at the lower ends of the economic realm and in the middle are feeling good, well, then inequality doesn't seem quite so painful.
That's tough. Yeah, last one, Uncle Bernie.
Yeah. Bernie Sanders, you know, he's like your first crush, your first girlfriend. Progressives always will have a soft spot in their heart for him because he showed the party as far to the left of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
But he is not their future. He is not going forward.
So when you look at the list, these are
5 Democrats who are running for re-election this year, and this highlights the problem. The more the party sounds like the presidential candidates, the more these candidates have trouble winning re-election in the Senate. And by the way, there's that electoral college thing. How is this going to play? How is winning California going to play?
What attention. Swing states that went for Trump, they're voting for this bill because it makes sense. But if you're running for the Democratic primary and you're hard left, you'd have a totally different vote.
Right.
My goodness. You think we're going to leave it right there.
We'll leave it
with these guys. But ultimately, I think that works. You got to touch the bottom of the screen. TV professional. They'll issue you a certificate.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Scott, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Great political insight. We appreciate it. All right, some GOP lawmakers say that FISA surveillance memo will shock the country if it's made public. Well, Florida Congressman Ron DeSantis, he's pushing for that to happen, and he joins us next. Plus, one bar is helping take the edge off. This is a bar where you drink alcohol with special shutdown cocktails. A bartender is here serving up drinks like, come on, Chuck. The Schumer shutdown cocktail you're not going to want to miss just ahead.
We're back with a Fox News alert. 2 Army pilots killed after their helicopter crashed during a training mission. It happened at Fort Irwin in Southern California. The Apache chopper crashing into the nearby Mojave Desert early Saturday. Their names have not yet been released. This is the first known deadly military crash of 2018. In another Fox News alert, the Taliban taking responsibility for the deadly hotel siege overnight in Kabul, killing 6 people and wounding 6 others. 5 gunmen storming into the luxury hotel, holding guests hostage during a 12-hour standoff with police. A fire breaking out during the attack, forcing some to escape from high balconies. Police killing all 5 gunmen and rescued more than 150 people during the attack.
I have been to that hotel. Yeah. All right, well, a Fox News alert. The government shutdown officially entering day 2 as Democrats vow to block any Republican efforts to get it back open.
GOP Congressman Ron DeSantis joins us now to react. Welcome, Representative.
Good morning.
How's it going there in D.C.?
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is, in the House, I mean, we've voted to fund all these agencies for the full year way back in the summer and fall like you're supposed to. This is all supposed to be done by October 1, the start of the fiscal year. So the House did that, and then the Senate didn't do anything. So then we sent this other bill over. So, you know, we've done our job, and it's just you have a handful of Senate Democrats that are really holding up the train. So we're waiting to see what happens.
But Congressman, not everyone in the House of Representatives is running for president like in the U.S. Senate. So how do you break this logjam in the Senate? Who blinks, and what does an agreement look like?
if you look at what now has happened, you know, the government doesn't really shut down over the weekend because it's usually not open anyways, and so I don't think anything major has happened up to this point. But I think what happens is when you go past a deadline like that and you have a lapse of appropriations, it does crystallize the issues that are at stake. And I think what the Democrats have done in the Senate is that they've sent a signal to the American people that says, you know, we care about giving benefits to illegal immigrants much more than we care about doing things for the American people, such as paying our troops and funding our military. And I think for them, I think that's a devastating position to end up in. You have a lot of those Democrats who are running for re-election in states that President Trump won. You know, I look at a state like Florida that he carried heavy military presence and veterans presence. I think that's a tough sell for the broader American public.
Yesterday, you were in a conference with the GOP, and I imagine that the memo, the House Intelligence memo, the two-page report that congressmen were allowed to see came up. Can you tell us anything that happened inside the conference as it relates to the memo?
Well, I can just tell you this. I know that there is an effort to do this, to release it to the public. I think that will be done. I'm not sure exactly when. I hope it's done as soon as possible, but I think it'll be no later than next week. It's just a matter of getting the Intelligence Committee together to vote on it at this point. And I think we need to do that because this really shows and raises serious questions about how these very powerful instruments of our government, when you start talking about domestic surveillance, that's one of the most intrusive powers that the government has. And if that was used in a way that was fueled in any way by politics or by faulty information against an opposing party's presidential candidate, that is something that the American people need to know. And so it will be released. I'm confident of that. I hope it's sooner rather than later.
A lot of people have suggested that someone's going to go to jail or lose their job when this thing becomes public. Do you agree with that?
I definitely think there are some of the cast of characters that we've been talking about publicly in different public reports. I think when the memo comes out, I think it'll raise further questions about their continued service in the government. I mean, you look at somebody like a Bruce Orr, whose wife worked for Fusion GPS. He's meeting with Christopher Steele in unauthorized meetings before, actually during the election. He's meeting with Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS after the election, and he's been demoted from being an associate attorney general, and then he's been demoted again from being the head of the Organized Crime Task Force. And so if the memo has information about Orr's role that's questionable, then you look at somebody like that, you're like, okay, well, why are they still working in the government?
Right.
Yeah. Well, we hear it's about a 2 to 3 week process that may have to take place in order for the memo to be released in proper fashion. Better to do it that way than, of course, to leak it or let anything come out the wrong way. Appreciate your work on this, Congressman. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Congressman.
You got it.
Coming up, I hit the streets to talk with protesters at the Women's March here in New York. So why were they marching?
I'm angry at everything that's going on.
I'm here just to march, just to be part of the event. Anyone who's not here, I can't understand this.
I'll cheers with her.
And that's not all.
They heard that.
The government is closed, but the bar is open.
We're just going by.
One bar in D.C. helping to edge off with special shutdown cocktails. Next.
Thank you for calling the White House. Unfortunately, we cannot answer your call today because congressional Democrats are holding government funding, including funding for our troops and other national security priorities, hostage to an unrelated immigration debate.
So if you were to call the White House right now, that is the voice message that you would get.
And we just did, and that's what we got when we called the White House.
That's the comment line.
We just tried, didn't we?
Yes.
There it is.
We've got the number. The number is 202-456-1111. You too can try it at home and hear that same exact voice message.
And when I heard that, you know what I thought? I thought, this is the hardball negotiating tactics that people wanted from President Trump. This is what makes him different. There is no other Republican who would have done that.
No. You're exactly right. And there's Democrats, I will use the word squealing, because they're angry that the Republicans are playing hardball politics back. And we saw it play out on the House floor yesterday because Republicans are labeling it, rightfully so, the Schumer shutdown, including posters like this. We see props like this all the time. I don't know if Sean uses props.
Of course,
Sure he does. Well, some Democrats...
It's the visual. There it is.
There it is. Some Democrats were unhappy. Take a listen to what they had to say.
Voted to prevent this shutdown and keep the government.
A majority in the House and a majority in the Senate have voted to prevent this shutdown and keep the government open.
The gentleman from Colorado will state his point of order.
Point of order. The poster that's being brought is disparaging a member of the Senate. I ask that. How is that disparaging? He's using his own words.
Exactly.
It's right there. You know, it's
right.
Schumer shut down.
You know, it's
name calling.
But they can they can call Republicans racist. They can say the worst things about Republicans, but you can't say Schumer shut down.
No, you know what you can't do? You can't fight back the way Republicans are right now. That's the secret sauce. And that's what Republicans are learning from this president. You don't win unless you fight.
And they're fighting.
You got to fight hard because the left always fights that way. You're right. Racist, sexist, misogynist, Islamophobic, every label you want. That's okay.
But Schumer shut down? Whoa.
Wait.
Whoa.
Put on the
I
brakes
draw
there.
the line right there,
That's right.
buddy.
That's a red line. Maybe
it.
that's a red line they will enforce. I'm just saying.
I have a red line to go to the headlines here. So turning to your headlines and some really sad news. The House of Horror couple in California wanted a 14th child in hopes of landing a reality TV series. That's according to a relative who revealed those disturbing details to the Daily Mirror. Louise Turpin apparently telling her half-brother they thought it would make them millions and household names. David and Louise Turpin are each being held on $13 million bail for allegedly holding their 13 children captive while starving, torturing, and beating them for years. The serial stowaway is back, accused of sneaking onto another plane without a ticket. Police say Marilyn Hartman dodged TSA agents at Chicago O'Hare's International Airport by hiding her face with her hair and boarding a plane to London. British Customs sending the 66-year-old back to Chicago after she couldn't show proper identification. A judge now ordering her to wear an ankle monitor, calling her a flight risk.
Is that a pun?
I think so.
Police say this is at least her 10th arrest for the same crime.
Wow, that's her thing.
Apparently, it's harder to grow up these days.
Can we turn our beds into bunk beds? And here's the thing, it'll give us so much extra space in our room to do activities. Please say yes.
You don't need permission from us to build bunk beds. You're adults.
Best clip of all time.
Australian researchers say adulthood now starts at 24. They argue the brain is still maturing well beyond 20 and that young people are continuing their education longer as well. They're also delaying marriage and parenthood. On average, women are marrying at age 30 and men at age 32. And those are your headlines.
Just man children.
Yeah, men.
Right, men were fighting wars at 18, and now you're still on Obamacare at 26.
Men were forging their age to fight wars at 16 or 17. And now they're like, no, I got to have my Xbox.
And it also means that I got my kid for another 7 years. He's still going to be there. I like that, though. That's good.
Rick, you've never been a man-child.
Rick's still fighting wars at
Like
18.
youth, I can say
real
it's true.
man.
Sure, man. He looks like a man-child. He's a man-child.
If I could live at home, I still would. Let's be honest about this. That would make my savings account a lot better. All right, so we've got a nice warm day again across the east. It was an incredible warm day yesterday. I shouldn't say warm, but for this time of year, certainly felt warm after the cold air that we've had. A little bit of showers going across parts of Florida. Nothing that's going to cause a rain out of your day. Across the Central Plains, we have a big storm. It brought a lot of snow yesterday, places like Salt Lake City, Flagstaff, Arizona. Now we've got snow this morning in Denver, and throughout the afternoon, we're going to see it across the panhandle of Nebraska and eventually moving in towards Minnesota. There's going to be some spots there that pick up in excess of about a foot of snow. So some spots that haven't seen very much snow, even the Denver area, you've been very, very light, but we've got a big storm coming for you here. Here's your temperatures for the day today. 71 in Dallas, 72 in New Orleans. It's going to feel great after the cold week that you had last week. And here you go. Tomorrow, your temperatures are starting off your work week. All the cold air is out across the east. All right, guys. Over to you.
Rick, it's 6 a.m. We have a bar. Come on over.
It's 6:40, okay?
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's after 5.
That's true.
It's
Thank
5
you.
o'clock
Very
somewhere.
important, very important distinction. Of course it is.
It's only slightly past my bedtime.
That's right. Well, as Congress grapples with the government shutdown, why not have a drink to take the edge off? Dean doesn't have his read, so I'll read it for him.
Oh, I know. One D.C. bar is offering special shutdown cocktails and discounts for federal employees while you wait. So here, That's you.
No,
you go
I
ahead.
want you to take it.
Here to mix up a few shutdown cocktails for us, bartender at the Capitol Lounge in Washington, D.C., Farrell Parker. We're excited. We're very excited for this segment.
Good morning.
Morning.
So to flake or not to flake is one of the drinks,
Mm-hmm,
correct? So first of all, where did you guys come up with the idea of shutdown cocktails?
Well, this is my second shutdown with the bar.
Okay.
And I believe...
You don't look old enough.
You're a veteran.
I believe during the first shutdown, we did a free beer special with your government ID, but I think that got a little hectic.
Sure, a lot of
So
people
now we're
showed
actually
up.
charging people for drinks,
Okay.
even with the
Nothing
government
for free.
ID. Even with the government ID.
So the Capitol Lounge is right around the corner
Yes.
from the Capitol.
Yep.
It's the closest-
a lot of
the
DC
closest
types.
one?
Pretty close, very close.
Pretty much the closest?
It's the
Yeah,
the
call it the
closest bar to the Capitol.
So you are the epicenter of the swamp, and
Yeah.
you've got a lot of employees that don't have jobs right now, but they will pay for their alcohol. What kind of special drinks do you have for them?
So this is our shutdown cocktail menu, and one of the drinks on here is going to be the Durban Soda,
Which is?
obviously a play on
Obviously.
bourbon and soda.
Good
The
pour.
president calls him Dickie Durbin, right? On Twitter.
Yes,
I
he
mean,
does.
Yeah. It's bourbon and soda, and then some snitch. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah, it's a snitch. I
Yeah.
love it.
Oh,
That's
some
right.
snitch.
We have a little snitch sauce.
Wow.
We're using hot sauce, but you can really use whatever you think might sneak up behind you and bite you in the butt. So.
I don't think you should put the hot sauce because I don't
'Cause
think
you wanna-
yeah. From one.
But
See
that's
what
not the
happened?
cocktail. I got to make the
comment.
cocktail.
I mean, that's why, right?
I got to make the cocktail.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Outstanding.
Say that out.
Well done. All right, what's the next one? Move on over.
this is. Come on, Chuck. I think someone said it really much better than I said it.
Come on.
Come on, Chuck. Yeah.
Chuck.
Come on, Chuck. Fireball whiskey.
Ooh, little spice.
Yep. Perhaps.
I love you're making two of each.
Have to.
The rest of the show's good.
Will this cocktail make you cry?
Are there any tears in
Not
this?
for real.
I feel like it's more liquid courage, but
Okay.
and some woodchuck cider.
Some wood.
I like the
Yeah.
commentary, though.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Absolutely. So
Okay,
if you
well
work
done.
at the Capitol, at a bar at Capitol Hill, you got to know your politics. And I feel
true.
like you're on it.
What's the next one?
This I think is one of my favorites. This is Rand's Neighborhood Affair.
It was weird, wasn't it? I still don't understand
Rand
it.
thing where he got injured.
The neighbor, it's
Because there's been enough other news that we stopped wondering what happened with that.
I know,
What's in
really
it?
What do we have
bizarre.
in this
Okay,
thing,
brut champagne,
Okay.
some peach schnapps.
Okay.
A little fruity in there.
Can you drink this on your lawnmower?
I think you have to.
That's the
Better
key.
served on your lawnmower.
Better served on
But
lawnmower.
the last ingredient is the key.
A
This is the
splash
kicker.
of cranberry sauce and some lawn clipping, which is wheatgrass, so totally drinkable. But yeah,
Totally drinkable.
Okay,
I'm
real
really
fast.
We gotta get to the last one.
okay. This is to flake or not to flake.
No
Okay.
flaking.
It's a dirty martini.
Okay.
Gluten-free vodka. Everyone gets to play.
Okay.
Just as soon as you think it's dirty enough, make it dirtier.
Oh,
Okay?
man.
And then I like to shake it for as long as I think it takes Trump to come up with a tweet.
Done. Tweets in.
Yeah, it's too long, maybe.
Listen, if my husband comes in, send him back to his office.
Oh, give him a flake or not to flake.
Like you can have one.
But
you
give
can
him
have
a free one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. You know, sometimes when everything's dysfunctional, you got to have a little bit of fun. And you
Well
guys
done.
are doing it.
By the way,
Capitol
this was
Lounge,
the
right?
best booze segment we've ever had.
It is
It's a
awesome.
great one. I
All
love
right.
the sense of humor and the
Coming
commentary.
up, he's not even reading his. He's not reading
Coming
his.
The Women's March protesters say President Trump is ruining the country. But do they know the facts? We sent Rachel. I literally said, Rachel, get out there.
Get out
Good
there.
call.
She did to find
I
out.
did it. Now we're having record low, the lowest ever recorded unemployment rate for Hispanics. What do you say to that?
I would say, have you ever taken an economics course?
I majored in economics.
Oh, I can't wait. There's more where that came from next.
And President Trump has been fighting for Christians during his first year in office. How has faith shaped his presidency so far? The author of God and Donald Trump joins us with some insight coming up.